Hi there, hello to my friends from all over the world. This is Dr. Robin Malloy speaking out of Berlin in Germany. It's a beautiful, wonderful day. This is just amazing to experience the sun shining this way, the wind is blowing, and it's just awesome to feel the power and beauty of nature. I'm standing here right in opposition of the Reichstag, our Parliament, and I intuitively want to speak about transgenerational, epigenetical transference of traumatic experiences. I know this is a very, very deep and very strong topic, and I just want to start to dive into it today, not fully embracing all of the amazing and magnificent things that are being discovered right there, but I just want to start off very easily. We have been speaking about monism versus dualism. We have been speaking about the fact that Platonism led to a mindset which caused us to see the human person as a dualistic entity existing out of the body and a kind of psyche, soul, spirit, which is in a slight way intertwined with the body, but not really being essentially connected with the body, but being forced to live a life within the body, within nature, to therein develop back to the higher realms of the psyche, of the realms of this spiritual being. Neuropsychology understands the human being in a more Aristotle-like way, in a more Spinozan way. We know that our mind and our body are deeply intertwined, and also the Jewish thinking is influenced by Genesis 1, which says God took earth and breathed his ruach, his spiritual odem, onto it, and it became a living soul, which means that the human soul is always the connection of body, of matter and spirit altogether. So why am I speaking about matter again and monism again? We're here standing at one of the most historic places of all of Europe, the most tragical places, historically speaking, of all of Europe. From this place, devastating, satanical, and unthinkable things have been decided, and the power that has evolved here in this place during the beginning of the 20th century led to unthinkable destruction of so many countries, almost of all of Europe, more than that. So why am I talking about epigenetic inheritance right here? Because we are monistic beings, everything that we've experienced in history, everything that our forefathers have experienced, cognitively, emotionally, in terms of biochemistry, every experience that was amazing and was great, it was full of joy and love, and also every experience that was full of hate, full of pain, full of tears, and full of sicknesses and diseases, and full of hurt, and full of aggression, and full of war, were experiences that not only they made, but that are also being transferred transgenerationally onto us. How is that happening? Every experience that we make has a direct impact, direct influence on our biochemistry, on our DNA, and the DNA is the place in which our genome is being transferred throughout generations. 50% of my mother and 50% of the father, but the DNA is not, as we say in Germany, it's not something that has been placed like onto stone, but which is very fluid, which means the genome is quite stable, but the architecture of the genome, the so-called epigenome, is very flexible, it's very fluid, and can be influenced by the experiences that we make on a daily basis. So what happens is that there are some things that we inherit from one generation to the other, which are like a key that can unlock or that can lock things. Which means, for example, I could have in my genes, I could have a genetic sequence which says that I'm really vulnerable to develop a specific kind of cancer. But this gene can be very locked. The architecture of the gene is so close, so tense, that it's very difficult to really activate it. But through experience that I make, these influences can unlock this gene so that what was before locked in my body and was quite safe, or let's say it in a better way, the chances of it to be activated were very, very low. But because of my experience that I made, because of toxic influences, traumatic influences, speaking from intuition, all the way to psychosocial experiences, these genes can be unlocked in my life. This is one part of epigenetics, but the second part is not only can these genes be unlocked in my body through experience that I make, but the architecture of the genes, the way that the genes is it's not about the genome, but it's about the architecture of the genes, the way this gene is locked or being unlocked, how big the chances are that this gene can be activated or not. Even these chances can be transferred transgenerationally. And I'm standing right here at this very historic place, my mother being German, my father being American, with my grandmother being Native American, my grandfather being Afro-American. There's so much epigenetic in that, but also my grandfather being a soldier in the Second World War. He's experienced the fatal and brutal and really devastating and cursed attack against Russia, this great burden that we're carrying here, attacking not only Russia, all the nations of Europe almost, but attacking Russia and experiencing this brutal war of total destruction. He has experienced it. He was in Russia. He was also in Stalingrad, and I know that every experience that he made, traumatic experience, is also within my biochemistry. And this is the curse. This is something that is really hard to bear. That everything that my grandfather experienced traumatically, and thank God that he survived this war. Otherwise, I would have not been standing here. But even though it's a big curse on the one hand, it's an amazing blessing also. Why? Because first of all, I'm still standing here. Secondly, the book that has been written in our epigenome is unchangeable, and also such an individual, overwhelming story of suffering on the one hand, and also of experiencing joy and gladness on the other hand. But now, since we know, which has been known for 4,000 years, that yes, there is a transgenerational transference of every experience, especially traumatic experiences. By knowing that, we also know that we have the chance to deal with it. We have the chance to meet the pain. We have the chance to, if we are believers, to ask God, to ask Jesus Christ. If we are not believers, to understand that by every source that gives us power, everything that is fundamentally giving us strength, and every fountain of life that we can connect to, we're able to change what has happened during the last 500 years within us. And we are able to, by prayer, by reading, by learning, by growing, by loving, by experiencing relationship, we are able to meet new resources that are empowering us, and by being empowered, change our biochemistry, and by changing our biochemistry, changing our epigenetic inheritance. And saying this here in Berlin, standing at the Reichstag, knowing that this is a symbol of curse and blessing, knowing that the history of my family influences me deeply, I can also know that I'm here, we're here to make the change. This change is possible. There's always more hope and faith and love, and there's always more chances than there are burdens. There's always more blessing in us as human beings than all the curses combined together. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye.